Daivalabdena santosha Atmavicharana charam. One should execute his prescribed duties to the best of his ability and avoid performing duties not allotted to him. One should be satisfied with as much gain as he achieves by the grace of the Lord, and one should worship the lotus feet of a spiritual master. So the main thing here is that Atmavicharanarchanam means one should study under the self-realized soul. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells one should approach a spiritual master, Tattva. So similarly, here it is recommended that one should also, Kapila Muni is saying, one should study this process, devotional process, under someone who is qualified. Now, of course, he's talking about Astanga Yoga, but the Asanga Yoga is also, what he's talking about is using Asanga Yoga for devotional service also. So the first recommendation Prabhupada says in the purport, Swa Dharma Charanam. Basically, the duties, one has duties, one need to do one's duties. Because whether we like it or not, we have a particular nature. Because in the old system, everyone knew what their Varna ashram was. In Kali Yuga is kind of difficult. But still, we have a particular nature and we should be able to understand what we should do. So that has to be performed by all of us. So he's saying, Swadharma Charanam. Now, Prabhupada says, if however one is fortunate enough to transcend the designation of birth, a few lines down, in a particular society or community by being elevated to the standard of spiritual identity, then his swadharma or duty is solely that of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. If, however, one is fortunate enough. Yeah. Now, the actual duty of one who is advanced in Krishna consciousness is to serve the Lord. That means we are talking about someone who is very advanced, right? If they are not advanced, then they should be doing some activities aside from that also. As long as one remains in the bodily concept of life, he may act according to the duties of social convention. So, in society, your workplace, you need to follow certain conventions, basically. But, if one is elevated to the spiritual platform, he must simply serve the Supreme Lord. That is the real execution of Swadharma. Okay. Now from text 2, 3, 4, Kapila Muni is talking about things to do and not to do, injunctions, prohibition.
So if somebody is sufficiently advanced, Paradharma becomes Swadharma.
Yes. You have to be sufficiently advanced. So we think we are advanced. No. This will be guided by a spiritual master. They can tell you. And even if you need to maintain a family and all, you will know or you will focus on Krishna even when you're working. You know how to think of Krishna. Text 3. Gramya dharma nivrittischa moksha dharma ratistata nita nityadanam shashvar vivikta kshema sevanam. One should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead to salvation. One should eat very frugally and should always remain secluded so that he can achieve the highest perfection of life. So more recommendations to do and not to do. Okay. Otherwise, if you find those who are not performing devotional practices, you find that they are doing all kinds of rituals. One day they'll do Surya Narayan, next day Satya Narayan, and then they'll do Ganapati Puja. And whatever fits their, whatever is the menu of the day, like that. So that's what most people do. But when you understand the principles of devotional life, then according to Kapila Muni, if you are doing that and then you want to perform devotional activities, then you have to stop those kind of activities. Because you can see some devotees will still do that, and they'll come to the Hare Krishna temple and they'll go to some other demigod temple also. So similarly, these recommendations are there. And Kapila Muni is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's saying that. Just like Srila Prabhupada has given us the process, given us the standards for this age already. That's it. We cannot change that. That's the standard. We have to follow that. So, by following Srila Prabhupada's standards and so on properly, one will achieve salvation. Of course, when salvation means pure devotional practices. Here, the salvation here is different. Here, in the verse, you can see Kapila Muni is talking about moksha. So, moksha is different. Moksha is not the same. Moksha, dharma. That means people just want to get out of material modes. But ours is not about material modes. We want to do devotional service, pure devotional service. Yeah. But in general, as he says, Gramya Dharma, what they do, they only do activities for what? Okay, sense gratification, what else?
Doing some pious activities so that they
Yeah, so what are the things they do?
Elevation.
Yes, dharma, artha, kama, and then moksha. These are the four things they do. But ours is not just limited to dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Ours is prema, manta. Yes, that's the fifth goal of existence. Thank you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed to us that is actually the real, the soul's real destination or activity should be to go after prema. Not all this, because these are all temporary. In one sense, it's very general. So one who wants to actually make real advancement, Prabhupada says, they should be executing pure devotional service. And of course, Prabhupada also gives a recommendation of how to eat. He says, have to eat according to the verse. What is it? Medya, mita medya, adanam. So eat little, not overeat. He's not saying you can't eat. Okay. This is for one who is serious about their spiritual life. If you are not serious, you can eat as much as you want. No, it's a fact. Because to practice yoga, you must be regulated in many things. And if you are not regulated in your eating also, you cannot focus on the Supreme Lord. Right? If you always have nice prasadam every day, even when you are meditating, you're thinking, what is the meal? Rather than, right? That's what happened. Or like, oh, my wife is gone to India, I don't know what to cook and things. Right? So that means you are not focused. So it's for one who's finished. And that's why he says, continuing it, Vivikta Kshema, that means he is going to a place, he's finished, generally he's more or less finished with his life, material life. So then he's going to a secluded place. Of course, for us, secluded means temple or devotee home where you worship Krishna like that. Worshipping Krishna, not worshipping the TV or something like that. So that's the difference between it. So it's very important to follow all these things. And these are, as you know, just like in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna what to do, how to do for yogi. Same, no difference here. Text 4. Ahimsa satyam asteyam
Ahimsa satyam asteyam
yavadartha parigraha brahmacharyam tapasaucham swadhyaya purusharchanam. One should practice non-violence and truthfulness. One should avoid thieving and be satisfied with possessing as much as he needs for his maintenance. He should abstain from sex life, perform austerity, be clean, study the Vedas, and worship the supreme form of the Supreme Personality of God. Do's, things to do. Non-violence, Purusharchanam, Prabhupada says, means worshipping the personality of God here, especially the form of Lord Krishna. So in yoga, one must concentrate the mind on the person Krishna. Otherwise, it's not possible to focus. So they must worship. And so for us, particularly because it's not easy, we have a deity of Krishna in temple, or either a picture or a deity of, or an actual deity in home like that. So not only that, Kapila Muni is also recommending non-violence, truthfulness. Non-violence means you don't
commit any crime, like killing or
do not interfere with one's progress.
With word, minds.
I can't hear you. You're mumbling.
Do not stop anyone's progress in.
Okay, don't stop another person's progress in devotional life. And what else? That's also one of them. What else? Cause hurt.
Do not cause.
Cause hurt physically or even verbally. That is violence also. Like, you know, when you want to preach to somebody and they fight with you, so you don't want to destroy the faith in there for them, you know, by shouting and making them feel, belittling them, you know, without thinking what the consequences of your actions are. So those things cause hurt. They are reactions, so your mind will not be peaceful. Remember, you remember all the past tense, or like even Vishwamitra, when he's meditating and he gets disturbed, he gets very angry and then he curses. These are all violence in a different way. And then he lost his ability to focusing. Then he has to sit for another 60,000 years. We don't have that much time. So we have to start practicing now, no violence. To practice non-violence, you also have to be truthful. It's only when we hide things and lie about it that we try to defend our position, and then we become violent. Right? So we should be truthful. Yeah, this is how I felt and this is what it is. Prabhupada says, right, in the Bhagavad Gita about truthfulness. What does he say?
should be spoken palatably.
Should be spoken, even if it's unpalatable. But, of course, when you speak to people, you should say it in such a way that they do not feel hurt.
Yeah.
Then another thing Kapila Muni says is avoid thieving. Okay, everything belongs to Krishna. He's the proprietor. So everything belongs to Krishna. We cannot take it and claim to be ours. And in general, Prabhupada says in the purport that
Mataji, you didn't park near the fire hydrant, right?
Next year.
No, after or before?
Next year.
you want to talk, you go there and talk.
No, actually that person told me.
Yeah,
properly.
you want to talk, you go there and talk. Prabhupada was saying in the purport that the tendency for people is to atyahara, right? Accumulate more than what they need. At most home you can go. They have so many things, and you ask them why you have that. Well, they won't even use it for the next thing. They may even die, and it's still at their home. But they have no heart to throw it away. I've seen so many people. Some people, when they got married, they got a small pot, and they had some sentimental attachment to it. They never use it. It's probably broken. Also, they keep it still. Oh, that's when I got it. Yeah, so it's like that. So we tend to accumulate more than what we need in our life, Actually, what we need is just to have maintenance. Prabhupada gives another example also when a cart of grain, a man is, and it falls in the road and it breaks. And the birds will come and take what they need and go. The insects will come, the squirrel will take some and go. But then when a man comes, he'll take the whole bag and go. So they don't understand the value of sharing and so on. You only need what you need for your personal maintenance, not more than that. And similarly, Prabhupada also talks about brahmacharyam. Here he means by performing celibacy. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone should perform celibacy. Particularly in this age, they don't want you to control your or practice celibacy because they want to manipulate people. It's actually, low class thing. You see all the movies and so on, they all want to have some sex in it because who wants to see another person have it? It's low class people only do that. Prabhupada mentions that also in the he discusses when Draupadi has been disrobed. Prabhupada says Karna wanted to see her naked, and he said this is low class, even though he's a Kshatriya, low class, and so is all the people sitting there who didn't stop. So these are low class things. So celibacy is very important because when you control yourself, it allows you to focus properly. Focus yourself. So both brahmachari or grihastha, vanaprastha, sanya, everyone must practice celibacy. Prabhupada says one who's married and he has restricted sex life, he is also brahmachari. Grihastha brahmachari. And then finally, the devotee must be reading the scriptures. Devotees must be reading. So how much do we read? We only read once a year. In this case, when I come there only. No, you should read every day. Like, a test, you wait until the last minute to study. It's not going to happen because you'll forget. Short-term memory, short-term. If you read every day, you'll have long-term memory. Krishna consciousness is something you want to have long-term memories. You can't have short-term memory. So Narottam Das Thakur, Prabhupada says, a great devotee and Acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, says that all spiritual activities should be understood from three sources, namely saintly persons, standard scriptures, and the spiritual master. These three guides are very important for progress in spiritual life. The spiritual master prescribes standard literature for the prosecution of the yoga of devotional service, and he himself speaks only from scriptural reference. Therefore, reading standard scriptures is necessary for executing yoga. Practicing yoga without reading the standard literature is simply a waste of time. Because then you speculate. You don't know what the goal is. So you can't practice properly. In fact, you will think you are doing right, and then you cannot be trained properly. Prabhupada also gives an example of someone who already knows something. It's harder to train someone who knows something than someone who don't know anything. Gives the example of a musical teacher. The person comes and says, two people come and one person says, I don't know anything. And he says, yes, I'll teach you. Second person says, I know something. No, I can't teach you. Oh no, he charged him more for the guy who already knows. He said, why are you charging me more? He says, because first I have to teach you how to forget and then I'll teach you. That's a fact. If you have bad habits, then you have to give up bad habits, which is what sadhana bhakti is about, to cultivate good habits. Sadhana bhakti is to cultivate good habits. But we practice sadhana bhakti, but at the same time we also practice bad habits. So we need to stop doing that. Otherwise we are wasting our time. Prabhupada says, practicing yoga without reading the standard is simply a waste of time. So we waste also even in practicing properly, even though we know what is right and wrong. So Kapila Muni continues with more instructions. Maunam sat asana jaya.
Maunam sat asana jaya.
Stairyam prana jaya shanai.
Stairyam prana jaya shanai.
Pratyaharas chendriyanam.
Pratyaharas chendriyanam.
Vishayan manasaridi.
Vishayan manasaridi.
One must observe silence, acquire steadiness by practicing different yogic postures, control the breathing of the vital air, withdraw the senses from sense objects, and thus concentrate the mind on the heart. So these are practicing asanas, pratyahara, pranayama, all those things, so that the prana is properly situated. Text 6. Swadhisnyanam ekadese.
Swadhisnyanam ekadese.
Manasa pranadharanam.
Manasa pranadharanam.
Vaikuntalila vidyanam.
Vaikuntalila vidyanam.
Samadhanam tatatmanaha.
Samadhanam tatatmanaha.
Fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called samadhi or samadhana of the mind. 6 circles means chakras. No? Okay. There are 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body. The first circle is within the belly. The second circle is in the area of the heart. The third is in the area of the lungs. The fourth is on the palate. The fifth is between the eyebrows, and the highest, the 6th circle, is above the brain. One has to fix his mind and the circulation of the vital air, and thus think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So that's why you need to read from Prabhupada's book. Otherwise, how can you think of the pastime? Right? How are you going to think? You're going to come up with your own pastimes? Right? It's not possible. So you have to think carefully and then read Prabhupada's book. It is never mentioned that one should concentrate on the impersonal or void. Kapila Muni is not saying impersonal or void. He's saying on the form. And here he's saying about the Leela. He says Vaikunta Leela. Leela means pastimes. Unless the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, has transcendental activity, where is the scope for thinking of these pastimes? Right? It is through the processes of devotional service chanting and hearing of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that one can achieve this concentration. Okay? So we have to practice nicely. Prabhupada kept saying seriously. So towards the end, Prabhupada writes, one need only concentrate his mind on one such narration, means one such pastime, and become always absorbed in its thought. Whichever pastime you like, you can focus on that. Then he will be in samadhi. You understand? That means you're always thinking of that pastime. So then you're always thinking means your mind is focused on that pastime. Samadhi is not an artificial bodily state. It is the state achieved when the mind is virtually absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So like this, you can read Krishna book and remember a pastime that you like. You don't have to always be, oh, I only want this kind of pastime. No, just pick a pastime you enjoy. And then you think about it. And then slowly, when you get more advanced, your mind automatically will go to that aspect or feature of Krishna that you like most. You can't artificially meditate on only this pastime, gopi pastime or this pastime. No. Just read and then keep thinking and then you'll find it happens.
The Mahaprabhu, I heard Dhruva Maharaj pastime like 1,000 times.
There you go, yeah. So many devotees also.
But the problem happened with us is like we cannot hear the same thing. We don't have the taste.
No, that's why you have to keep reading. First time you read, you like it. Second time you say, I know it. The mind is fighting with you. So you have to say, no, I want to read it to see if I know everything or not. No, I don't remember everything. Let me read again. Then you make your second attempt. Then like this, every day you read the same thing. After a while, you can remember everything. Line by line, you can remember.
We can do Lord Chaitanya's pastime.
Yeah, you can do Lord Chaitanya pastime, any, as long as it's Leela. It's called Leela Smaranam, actually. And you can see, you can do that. Prabhupada is not saying you should not do. But he's saying you have to follow everything in a regulated way. Follow everything nicely. Here you can see how the Kapila Muni is telling the yogi to master the asanas. Once they can master the asanas, then they can focus on the pranayam, breathing. First they need to know how to sit everything properly. Once everything is done, they do pranayam. So when they do pranayam, they can start moving the prana properly. Otherwise you can't do it. So asana, then prana, pranayam. Then once they can move the prana properly, they practice pratyahara. Yeah, pratyahara they'll do. And then they move the pranas through the chakras. And in the chakras, by practicing like that, they know where the disturbance is in their mind. So they move it through each chakra to get rid of the mode of passion and ignorance. And then they situate ultimately in the mode of goodness like this. That's how they become purified. Then after that, pranayam, they will do pratyahara. What pratyahara means? They stop with the external things. So the senses they don't want to touch anything. They meditate now more, which comes to the stage of meditation. No, dharana. Dharana then, which is more concentrated, and finally samadhi from concentration. Absorption is samadhi. Intense absorption. Okay. Text 7. Etaranyascha patibhir manodustam asatpatam buddhya yunjita shanaya jita prano hi atandritaha. By these processes or any other true process, one must control the contaminated, unbridled mind, which is always attracted by material enjoyment, and thus fix himself in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So by these processes or any other true process means, what does it mean?
Bona fide process.
Bona fide process. not something you make up, something that's recommended in the scripture, some acharya, sampradaya, properly. Right? So that is the process that one should employ.
However, all the bona fide processes have been discussed in the Bhagavad Gita, so there is no need to invent anything.
There's nothing to invent. You just follow this. Anyone, Kapila Muni is saying, any one of this bona fide process you follow will bring you to the
Samadhi.
Samadhi.
Eventually.
Yes. So the essential point Prabhupada says is that the mind which is contaminated by material attraction has to be bridled. Here is unbridled mind. So bridled and concentrated on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It cannot be fixed on something void or impersonal. So again, Kapila Muni is making it very clear. It must be focused on the Supreme Lord. He says that, fix himself in part of the Supreme Lord. He's not saying void. So these are clues that Srila Prabhupada is writing in this purpose, that impersonalism it's a made up thing. It's not a factual thing, okay? For this reason, so-called yoga practices of voidism and impersonalism are not recommended in any standard yoga shastra. So he's quoting shastra. Where in the shastra he says? Patanjali doesn't say that also. The real yogi...
What impersonalism?
Huh?
Impersonalism.
What about it?
No, you're saying that nothing has been described in Shastras.
Yes. The real yogi is a devotee because his mind is always concentrated on the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is the topmost yoga system. Text 8. Suchau deshe pratistapya Vijitasana asanam Tasmin swasti samasina Vijukaya samabhyase. After controlling one's mind and sitting postures, one should spread a seat in a secluded and sanctified place. Sit there in an easy posture, keeping the body erect, and practice breath control. So it's the same as in chapter 6. Yeah, Bhagavad Gita. Text 9. Pranasya shodayan margam Urakumbha kare chakai Pratikulena vachittam Yatastiram achanchalam. The yogi should clear the passage of vital air by breathing in the following manner. First, he should inhale very deeply, then hold the breath in, and finally exhale. Or reversing the process, the yogi can first exhale, then hold the breath outside, and finally inhale. This is done so that the mind may become steady and free from external disturbances. The whole idea is, by breathing, there is this vagus nerve. There's a nerve there. That nerve goes all the way. And so if you can calm, instead of disturbing the prana, everything is in line, then the mind is focused. And the best way to focus the mind is to think about the Supreme. Prabhupada writes in the second paragraph, the ultimate purpose of clearing the Ida and Pingala is to divert the mind from material enjoyment. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one's mind is his enemy and one's mind is also his friend. Its position varies according to the different dealings of the living entity. If we divert our mind to thoughts of material enjoyment, then our mind becomes an enemy. And if we concentrate our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, then our mind is a friend. So you'll find very difficult to focus on Krishna, but you are more, you become happy to focus on material energy, which means we are not training properly. So, like I said before, you may not like to read in the beginning, but you have to force yourself in the beginning. It's like getting up from Mangalarati, you force it. And after that, it becomes natural. And then the mind eventually will give up fighting with you. It will fight because it likes what it used to. And then now you're saying no, so it'll fight with you. Yeah. Like a little child, when you give the child something and it's enjoying it, and you try to take your cell phone or what, it'll cry. So then you have to substitute with something that the child will say, okay, it's a fair bargain. And then so same way, the mind has to be forced to understand that this is good for you. Then it will accept that. Otherwise, it's always our enemy. In the next paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, how do we control all these things? So difficult in nowadays to do all these yoga asanas and everything. So Prabhupada quotes Lord Chaitanya recommended, Kirtanya Sadahari. One should always chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, because Krishna is the most suitable name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The name Krishna and the Supreme Person Krishna are non-different. Therefore, if one concentrates his mind on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, the same result is achieved. Same result. Prabhupada is saying, don't have to do all these things. Nama Chintamani Krishna Rasa Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purno Shuddha Nitya Mukto Namo Namo. So therefore we should be chanting nicely. Focus on it. Right? It's there. He's already given. Prabhupada has given the standard. We don't have to change anything. We don't have to think we know what is right or better. Sometimes people say, yeah, I've even read in some online website also, not to mention the name, but you all probably know. But some devotees say that Prabhupada didn't know everything. How is that? And even now, people think they know they're better than Prabhupada. They say, oh, well, this is a good idea. Or they will say, Prabhupada will approve what I'm doing. Okay, how do you know Prabhupada will approve?
Because I'm saying it.
Okay, then how will you know?
Other sadhus.
Whatever Prabhupada said.
Other
Yeah, we just read Guru Sadhu Shastra. So who's our sadhus?
Other
GBC,
acharyas.
other acharyas.
Yes, JBC.
Acharyas.
JBC must say yes. And then you know, okay, it's approved. Otherwise, we cannot think that we know. Because sometimes we think that I know everything. Or you read some paragraph or some lecture by Prabhupada and we say, that's exactly what Prabhupada said. And we are very strongly opinionated. Maybe it's a lecture, right? Prabhupada may, according to the situation, he may be saying something. They say, Prabhupada said that, so I will do that. But the real rules is in his books. The book will say no. Just like, example, a lot of devotees know about this Radha Kund, right? Prabhupada says it's an act of instruction.
One should
He didn't say swim.
one should
You
stay
can take bath. He says you can take bath. But
people swim. Yeah.
But according to individual gurus, that you have to ask permission. Yeah. But Prabhupada never said you can't do that.
But I heard Prabhupada also said.
Did he write it?
No, I think in conversation.
Okay,
said,
so that's
stop
different. The ultimate authority is the books. Books are the basis for us. Due to circumstances, because some devotees became overly enthusiastic and they started to have party swimming competition. So Prabhupada got angry and said, no, you all don't do, you just honor it. So then, since then, some devotees are very cautious because you have to be careful. So therefore, some gurus will tell you, no, you don't take, you just take and sprinkle. Other gurus will say, no, Prabhupada say you can take. And so you ask your individual gurus. Alright? So therefore, there is rules. There is regular. Prabhupada already set the whole system. No need to reinvent. Don't reinvent the wheel. Text 10. Manochirat syad virajam
Manochirat virajam
jitasvasasya yoginah
jitasvasasya yoginah
vayu agnibhyam yataloham
vayuvagnivyayataloham
Dmatma matam tyajati vaimalam.
matam yajayavaimalam.
The yogis who practice such breathing exercises are very soon freed from all mental disturbances. Just as gold, when put into fire and fanned with air, becomes free from all impurities. So similarly, Prabhupada always, what's Prabhupada doing? Kapila Muni is talking about Ashtanga process, Prabhupada is talking about Bhakti Yoga. So what is Prabhupada doing?
He's giving the essence.
Rationalizing the two.
Yes, he's showing how it's the same. I mean, it is the same, but the system is different, but the goal is the same. And there are many things that are very similar, and it can be done in both. So this process of purifying the mind is also recommended by Lord Chaitanya. He says that one should chant Hare Krishna. He says further, Param Vijayate. All glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan. All glories are given to the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, because as soon as one begins this process of chanting, the mind becomes purified. Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. By chanting the holy name of Krishna, one is cleansed of the dirt that accumulates in the mind. One can purify the mind either by the breathing process or by the chanting process, just as one can purify gold by putting it in a fire and fanning it with the bellows. Okay, so you can do some asana, and you see some devotees want to do those things, because it helps them. Okay, so we shouldn't think, we shouldn't think we are better than them and say, why are you doing? Just chant your answer. Sometimes they want to do, and you should be tolerant, But if they do it for many years and they can't do it, then you can say, you've been trying, why don't you just chant? Peacefully chant. Text 11. Pranayame dahe doshan
Pranayame dahe doshan
Dharanabhischa kilbishan
Dharanabhischa kilbishan
Pratyaharena samsargan
Pratyaharena samsargan
Dhyanena nishvaran gunan.
Dhyanena nishvaran gunan.
By practicing the process of pranayama, one can eradicate the contamination of his physiological condition. And by concentrating the mind, one can become free from all sinful activities. By restraining the senses, one can free himself from material association. And by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become free from the three modes of material attachment. So many things. Kapila Muni is saying by doing each step, what you are getting free. So everything, as you do steadily, you get free. So just like when we do devotion service, in the beginning, immediately we become free from
Anxiety.
kleshagni. Yeah. Immediately. If you do it correctly. And you feel happiness. In the second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada writes, towards the bottom, after Sagunan Samitaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpiti. For every item in the yoga system, there's a parallel activity in Bhakti Yoga. But the practice of Bhakti Yoga is easier for this age. He's not just making it up, it is. Right? We can't sit down, we can't do all the breathing. It's so difficult. Even like that Ramdev guy, right? You try it. How many people can actually do it? It's not easy. Because it's hard to focus the mind. That's why it's hard. But the practice of Bhakti Yoga is easier for this age. That's what Prabhupada wants to make us understand. What was introduced by Lord Chaitanya is not a new interpretation. Bhakti Yoga is a feasible process that begins with chanting and hearing. Bhakti Yoga and other yogas have as their ultimate goal the same personality of Godhead. One is practical and the others are difficult. One has to purify his physiological condition by concentration and by restraint of the senses. Then he can fix his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is called Samadhi. You can do that simply by chanting. Simply by chanting. So interesting, right? So, text 12. Yada mana swam virajam yogena susamahitam ashtam bhagavato dhyayet svanasagrava lokanaha. When the mind is perfectly purified by this practice of yoga, one should concentrate on the tip of the nose with half-closed eyes and see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, he is saying about the form. Okay? He said, meditate on Bhagavata. Custom Bhagavata. Means a form of the Lord, an expansion of the Lord. So here, Prabhupada says the word custom is referring to the plenary expansion, Paramatma. Okay. Bhagavata refers to Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Godhead is Krishna, from him comes all the different expansions. Okay. And then Prabhupada says in this verse it is clearly stated that one must meditate by fixing the vision on the tip of the nose and concentrating one's mind on the kala or the plenary expansion of Vishnu. So that means it is not an impersonal thing again. You must focus. Unless you know how he looks, how can you do this? Right? It's not possible. So therefore we will see the description of this personality to focus on. Prasanna vadanambojam Padmagarbharo Nikshanam Nilotpala Dalashyamam Shankachakra Gadadaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus and a swathi body like the petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus and mace in 3 of his hands. So here you go, he's giving a description of the Lord, how he looks. He is cheerful, he's not angry or he's not unhappy being in the heart or whatever.
So in Patanjali's description, does he also give a description of the Supreme Person?
It must be. I do not know. I have not read Patanjali Sutras, Yoga Sutras. Maybe you can check.
I heard he was a devotee.
He is an expansion of Lord Shiva. Patanjali. That's my understanding. Anyway, I mean, if I find out, I can tell you.
Because if Patanjali had a description of the Supreme Person, then all of the yoga schools are wrong, right? Because they're all focusing on impersonal. But even if he said in one line somewhere,
it must be
the Supreme Lord, then all of the followers are wrong. They're not following it properly. Because all the yoga studios, right? I mean, they're all impersonally based.
No, most yoga students don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah,
all they know is it's good for health,
They don't do pranayama.
Yeah.
They don't teach pranayama. Only asanas.
Not even asanas.
No asana. Some kind of asana, just for health reasons.
They do hot yoga.
All done by that. Who's that guy? Iyengar's disciple.
Bikram yoga.
Bikram.
Oh,
Hot yoga is Bikram.
Yeah, Bikram. So he's also a disciple of Iyengar.
BK Iyengar.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. those who attach, Prabhupada writes, those who attach to the impersonal or void features of meditation have to undergo a difficult process because we are not accustomed to concentrating our minds upon anything impersonal. Actually, such concentration is not even possible. Bhagavad Gita also confirms that one should concentrate his mind on the personality of God. Remember, Arjuna asks him, right, which is better? Krishna says, it's very difficult. After many, many, many lifetimes, then he may be able to. That too, he will not get me. So, you have to understand, Krishna already said it very clearly. And here also you see the description of Krishna, Kapila Muni is saying is blue color. He's already saying it's blue. It's not like he made it up. He's saying that is the color and lotus color, blue lotus. It's not something that we made it up. That is his effulgence. So that's why the effulgence is bright, but when it comes through the sky is blue because it's coming from a blue personality. Understand? So that effulgence is blue also. Sky is blue. Now you know why the sky is blue.
Yeah.
Scientists will say, oh, the light is reflecting at a certain angle. So, but actually it's Krishna's color.
It's coming from Brahmajyoti to sun to sun to
Yeah, it's Krishna's effulgence. Blue, this effulgence is blue, white, blue, or whatever you want to put. So anyway, here it gives a good description. So one cannot say he's impersonal. It's nonsense. Such an understanding. Text 14. Lasad pankaja kinjalkha Pita kausheya vasasam Srivatsa vakshasham brajad Kaustuba mukta kandaram. His loins are covered by a shining cloth, yellowish like the filaments of a lotus. On his breast he bears the mark of Srivatsa, a curl of white hair. The brilliant Kaustuba gem is suspended from his neck. So he has all the features again. It's not like he has no features. It's very well dressed. He has a lot of jewelry also. This is how we dress the deities. Because we see it from the scripture, then we follow. We don't speculate, like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. We read how they're dancing and you don't see them carry something in the hand and go, right? So you see when people dress the deities, they put something stick in their hands and so on. That means it's all speculation. You have to follow according to what is described in scripture. Text 15. Mattadvirepa kalaya Paritam vanamalaya Paradhyahara valaya Kiritangada nupuram. He also wears around his neck a garland of attractive sylvan flowers and a swarm of bees, intoxicated by its delicious fragrance, hums about the garland. He is further superbly adorned with a pearl necklace, a crown, and pairs of armlets, bracelets, and anklets. So that's how it should be addressed. Huh?
garland with these. Garland with these. No.
These are good prayers also because they are described.
Yeah. This you can memorize all these prayers.
So Paramatma is within the heart of the soul, right?
Yeah.
So the soul itself is 1/10,000 tip of the hair, right?
No, he is inside. He is also outside.
He's inside the soul and also outside?
Yes.
Inside the soul, inside the heart.
So it's both ways.
He's both ways. Why? He can't be.
Prabhu, his size is of thumb. Or
Yeah, it's described size is thumb, it's described 4 inches, so many things. Both.
So, but this is a description of Paramatma within the heart, right?
Within the heart.
Within the heart. Which soul part?
He's within the heart. He's this when you are meditating you can see him in the heart. This is that soul. That's Paramatma in the heart.
Mm.
Yeah. Not in the jiva.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why yogi meditate, right?
You try to meditate on the Paramatma.
Garland is missing.
No, this is not the. This is like Surya or somebody. Surya Narayana or something.
Read the word Paramatma.
Yeah. Text 16. Kanchi gunolla satshronim
Kanchi Guru Satchonam
Hridayam boja vistaram
Hridayam Vistaram
Dashaniyatamam shantam
Darshanam
Manonayana vardhanam.
Manonayana
His loins and hips encircled by a girdle. So another jewel he's wearing. He stands on the lotus of his devotee's heart. Okay? It's in the heart. He's most charming to look at, and his serene aspect gladdens the eyes and souls of the devotees who behold him. He's so beautiful. That's what it means by Darshani Yatamam. Very beautiful. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada says, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his eternal form is so beautiful and pleasing to the heart of the devotee, he does not attract the impersonalists who want to meditate on his impersonal aspect. Such impersonal meditation is simply fruitless labor. The actual yogis, with half-closed eyes, fix on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not upon anything void or impersonal. Okay? Otherwise you get nothing. You think of nothing, you get nothing. Next 17. Apichya darshanam shashvat
Apikya Darshanam
sarvaloka namaskritam
Sarvaloka Namaskritam
santam vayasi kaishore
Santam Vayasi Kaishore
Vrityanugraha kataram.
Vrityanugraha
The Lord is eternally very beautiful, and He is worshipable by all the inhabitants of every planet. He is ever youthful and always eager to bestow His blessing upon His devotees. Right? Advaitam Achutam Anadirananda Rupam Madhyam Purana Purusham Navayovanamscha Vedeshu Is ever youthful. Navayovanam. So, Sarvalokam Namaskritam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. So it's all same. There's nothing different. Nothing much different. The prayers and so on. The description. What Krishna says and what Kapila Muni says is very much the same. Nothing is different. Okay? So it's ever youthful. Beautiful.
Kaishora age is 16 years old.
Prabhupada sometimes says between 14 to 16. Young, very youthful, not like a man, like more like a teenager. Text 18. I mean, the Lord is always trying to, Prabhupada says, show favor to the devotees. So that we have text 18. Kirtanya Tirtha Yashasam Punyashloka Yashaskaram Yayadevam Samagrangam Yavanachyavate Manaha. Glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for His glories enhance the glories of His devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon His devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. So you can meditate on the Lord or His devotees. So we can meditate on Krishna, or we can meditate on our spiritual master, or Srila Prabhupada, Acharyas like that. You can do that. Yeah. Prabhupada writes, one has to fix his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. When one is accustomed to thinking of one of the innumerable forms of the Lord, Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, Narayana, etc.,